Well, welcome. You're seeing this video because you have joined a STEER Virtual Assessment Structural Team, or a VAST, in a Level 1 response. First of all, thank you. This video will briefly explain how you should approach your collaboration as part of a VAST. So in the VAST, we're working very quickly to prepare a report. That's a concise summary of the impacts of this event. And we want to release that within a week. The goal is to inform STEER's next steps with respect to our field assessment structural teams, as well as other research opportunities that might be created by this event. So I want to introduce you to one of the first and most important documents you'll find pinned to the Slack channel. At the top of the channel, you're going to find, I believe, the PVRR, the Preliminary Virtual Reconnaissance Report. This is the product we're producing right now. To get started, go down into this page right here with all the red lettering and this table. This is the table where we organize our work. So what you want to do is think about what part of the report you want to work on. Are you interested in the overall impacts and introduction of the event, the hazard characteristics, codes and construction practices in the affected areas, or the performance of buildings and other infrastructure? Think about where your interests are. And wherever those interests are, then you should come in this table and under the column labeled authors, put your name to indicate that you're going to begin working on that section. We use the Slack channel to then continue to collaborate and update one another on the work that we're doing, but the table is the place where you designate what you plan to work on. So we start to get an idea of which sections have been claimed by individuals, and more than one person can work on a section. Now, what we want to do is we want to be really careful about how we do our work. So if you picked one of the sections shaded in yellow, the sections that are working on the performance of buildings and other infrastructure, if you want to work on those topics, you're actually going to work in a very different way than the rest of the team, at least for the first 48 hours. The idea is that you should, for these sections, work in the media repository, and we have these instructions explained here. The media repository is also linked in your Slack channel. You can find it at the top of your Slack channel, and this is where we want to actually capture the photographic evidence of the impacts of the event on buildings and other parts of the infrastructure in the affected areas. Let me introduce you. The beginning just explains the idea. This will be the cover page for the report, the repository, and then you'll see a number of templates to accommodate different types and layouts of photographs. So you can see some of the different examples. And then you'll see this kind of section header. So the first 7 slides or so are just templates. You can copy and paste these slides to build out what you need. Then the table of contents is the most important slide because it helps you navigate the deck. So you can then click on the link in this table of contents to go to a particular type of building or infrastructure or other geotechnical or coastal system. So let's say that I'm working on port facilities. Then I would move to this section on port facilities and I would start building out photographic evidence of how ports performed. Again, I can go to the beginning of the slide deck at the very top and grab some of these example templates to build out some additional slides in the ports sequence. But as I'm working in the ports and facilities, my goal is whenever I find photographs that show evidence of the performance of the ports, I would be putting those photographs into the template. I'd be providing the location, either the address if possible or the coordinates, even better, where I got the information from, so the media source for the information, my name, and then a short description of what those photographs are showing. And my job in the first 48 hours is just to build out a sequence of slides in this repository for whichever parts of the infrastructure, classes I'm going to be working on or that I'm interested in working on in this event. So that's what we're doing in the first 48 hours, and it's a little bit different than the way STEER used to do things. So if you're a returning VAST member, this is a new way of doing work. So the idea is in the first 48 hours, people can work on the introduction, they can work on the hazard characteristics section, and the local codes and construction practices directly in this template. In parallel, others can work on information regarding infrastructure performance and the performance of different building classes, geotechnical issues, and coastal protective systems, if applicable, again, by building out sequences of slides in our repository. After the first 48 hours, then we'll come and actually build out the sections that are shaded in yellow based on the photographic evidence. So if we move into the template, you'll see what I mean. In the template, we have a section for the introduction. This part, again, can be claimed by someone and written in the first 48 hours. We have a section on the hazard characteristics. Again, you can open that up and basically begin writing this section to essentially match what kinds of hazard intensity or descriptions are available. Again, we can write this in the first 48 hours. And we can write the section on codes and construction practices in the first 48 hours. After the first 48 hours, we will hopefully have our media repository populated. Then the team can start working on preparing 1 to 2 line summaries of the performance of different building occupancies. And we can organize those into the tables in section 4. We can do the same in section 5. We can actually build out tables describing the performance of different types of infrastructure based on what we see in that photographic media repository. And then what we can do is if there's any notable case studies that we want to add to these sections, we can add them as subsections. And you can see there's subheadings that you can customize to then build out special cases. But this helps keep the report shorter and more focused. We're giving a high-level summary of all the built environment in these tables, and then reserving subsections for case studies of particular importance. And that's going to make the report more manageable and easier for us to release within the first week after an event. You'll see we're doing something similar in talking about the performance of geotechnical and coastal systems. And then we close the report with our recommended response strategy, which is written at the end by the leadership team. But this is the new format for our PVRRs. A couple other things to note as you go into the document and begin to identify the areas where you're going to work. We really do want you to log in to Google when you're working so you don't appear as anonymous. This lets us track who's contributed so we can put your names accordingly on the title page. And we want to make sure that you can commit some serious effort. We like to ask our VAST members to work for at least 3 hours in order to earn authorship on the report. And what we'll do then is we'll add all those people who did contribute to the cover of the report. That's one of the reasons why we like you to enter your name into this table so we can track who worked on which sections, and also to be logged into Google so you show up as yourself in the document rather than anonymous visiting contributor. So as a result, that's the way we want to approach the work. So you can see 2 48-hour windows define the work we're going to do with a very different approach to writing than in past PVRRs. Finally, please use the Slack channel to share information you're finding and to coordinate with the other writers of the report. You will see that the leader of the virtual team will provide requests for additional help and instruction, and those are all communicated through the Slack channel. In the Slack channel, again, that is where we have the template for this event and the media repository pinned. So you'll be able to access those at the top of the channel. But hopefully this video introduces you to the new way that we're building our PVRRs. So thank you again for your commitment to helping us all learn from this event. Let's build more resilience through reconnaissance.